Hello everyone, it's Mafalda and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a very fun and also very scary video for me, and I'm going to be talking about the worst books that I read in the year of 2021. We finally reached the end of the year content and this is the first video that I thought of doing, especially because last year I didn't do this video. And that was because I just didn't have a lot of book to talk about in my worst books category. I don't think I rated a book less than like 2.5 stars, which isn't a truly bad rating. And so last year I decided not to do it, also because I was very scared like I am this year. But this year I feel like I took a lot more risks with my reading and I read a lot more books out of my comfort zone, and so for that reason I have some books to talk about as being the worst of the year. And also, before I jump into the video, I just want to disclaim that these are my opinions. I know that a lot of people love these books, like absolutely love them and give them 5 stars, but to me they just didn't work. I think I have 7 books to talk about in total, and even though I'm mentioning these books as my worst reads of 2021, some of these I think I still gave like 2.5 or 3-star rating, but for some reason they just didn't work with me in some aspects, so I decided to mention them here. So let's just jump straight into the video, and the first book that I have to talk about is the only book that I actually DNF'd this year, because like sometimes I DNF a book in like the first like 5-10% and I don't even count them as a DNF book, but this one I think I reached like halfway and I was just so fed up with it, and this was for a video. This book was part of my Reading Like Miley Cyrus video that I'll link up here. That video was super fun to make, but unfortunately the reads weren't that great. I realized that my tastes are very different from Miley. She reads a lot of spiritual and non-fiction self-help books, and so because of that I read Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Thankfully I didn't buy this book for the video. I really thought of doing that, but thankfully I didn't. Because I think I reached like 45% of the book and I was just like, I'm done. I'm so done. I'm a very skeptical person when it comes to religion and spirituality, and this book was all about that basically, and how to fix your life with spirituality, which like to me it just doesn't work. I obviously wasn't the target audience for this book at all, but I still wanted to read this book for the video, so I read it and it just didn't work with me. When he said that you could cure cancer with praying every day and just like being spiritual, and I was just like, I'm done here. I've seen enough. I've seen what I had to see and it's just not for me at all, so I had to DNF it. I still count it as a read for this year because I reached like halfway with the book, and if I had to rate this book I think I would rate it at like a 1 star or half a star, because it's just wasn't for me at all. And if you're into like spirituality and self-help books like that, I highly recommend it. It's a really popular book, and Dr. Joe Dispenza has a lot of really popular books, but they just are not for me. Basically that was it. I still read it for the purpose of that week, but yeah, not anymore. Now the next book that I want to talk about, also before I go any further, I just want to say that this is not in any particular order. I actually started with my DNF just because I DNF'd that book, and now it's just like all over the place, so it's not in terms of rating or anything, or in terms of like how I enjoyed it. But yeah, the next book is one that people may find surprising, because I read a book by this author like a few months before I read this one, and I actually made a whole video about it. It's not on my channel anymore because I took it down, but it was basically, I read A Little Life by Anya Nagahara in January and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars at the time, and then I really wanted to read more of Anya Nagahara's work. I didn't say that name right. Anya Nagahara's work, because I really enjoyed her writing, so I picked up her previous book, which was The People in the Trees, and I was really looking forward to this read, because even though A Little Life had some things that I didn't really like about the book. I really enjoyed the writing, and I was really curious about the story because this book is set in the 50s and it follows a young doctor embarking on a journey to find a lost tribe in a remote island, and basically he finds that tribe and there he finds a cure to immortality and he brings that cure to America, I think, and it's about all of that. And I really thought that this book was going to be like a criticism to colonization because it really does seem like it, but honestly it just reinforced what people were already saying about Anya Nagahara's little life. And basically I realized that there is a common link between Anya Nagahara's two pieces of work. I think those are her only two novels, A Little Life and this one. I think so. I think she's coming out with another one in 2022, but I think she only has two books out, and there's a common link between the two books, and I'm not gonna mention it here because I just don't want to bring it up right now in my channel. It's probably gonna get demonetized. But basically it's not good and it's problematic. Like, people were already saying that that specific thing in A Little Life was problematic, but I was like, it's like, it serves a purpose in the story, I guess, and it's just one time. But then I read this book and that thing is also here and it serves absolutely no purpose other than to traumatize me and to make me feel super uncomfortable. Like, this book was absolutely disturbing. Like, I feel like crying just thinking about it. It was so disturbing. Like, the last scene of the book, if you read this book, I'm so sorry that you had to experience that because I also had, and I hated it. Like, I hated this book. I don't think I will ever read from this author again. Like, I really liked A Little Life and I think I still stand on my rating. I don't know, like, after reading this book, everything changed in my mind, and then I took my Little Life vlog out of my channel because I just really wasn't comfortable with discussing this author's work because this book was just disturbing as hell and it had nothing to do with what I thought it was going to be about, like a criticism to colonization and how America is a really big part of that, and it had nothing to do with that. It was just disturbing and it had so many things that I was not okay with. So I gave this book, I think, 2 stars on Goodreads, or 1 star, I'm not even sure anymore, but it's definitely like between 1 and 2 stars. I just didn't like most of it. This book ended in such a disturbing and just like, that's the word, disturbing way, and I don't think I will ever erase it from my mind, unfortunately. So yeah, that was that. The People in the Trees by Anya Nagahara. Not reading it again, and definitely getting rid of this book from my collection because I don't want the trauma anymore. Now, the next book that I want to talk about is one that I've mentioned a couple of times because this is a really popular book that everyone loves, and I just didn't get the hype at all. I was just so confused and disappointed, and it was Normal People by Sally Rooney. Like, everyone loves this book. Not me though. Like, oh my god, what is this? Just a receipt. So as I was saying, this book was just boring. Like, that's the word I used to describe this book in my notes. Like, it was just like boring as fuck. I saw no point to the story. I saw no point in the characters. I didn't care for them at all. I actually kind of hated both of them. Also, the fact that Sally Rooney doesn't use quotation marks is just like, it bothers me so much. It bothers me so much. Like, it's not that I wasn't able to separate the two, but it was just like, why though? Why wouldn't you use quotation marks? That's such a weird thing, and it really bothered me. I didn't like it. I didn't like the characters. Like I said, they were both just like the shittiest human beings, and their relationship was so toxic, and I feel like people who love the book can also like realize that it's a really toxic relationship. But like, why would you love a book about a toxic relationship with no point to the toxic relationship? Like, there's not even a point to this whole thing. Like, the book ends on the same note that it started, kind of. So I don't know why people hype this book so much. I don't get it. I don't get Sally Rooney's writing as well. And it's not just the quotation marks. I feel like her writing isn't that special. I'm sorry. And yeah, I just didn't think this book was worth the hype, and it was just like really boring. So yeah, I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, and I feel like not a lot of people agree with me, but that's just my opinion. Now the next book that I want to talk about is one that I've mentioned on my channel a couple of times because I read it quite recently. I read it in October, I think, and it's The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. And this wasn't like a book I hated. I think I gave it like 3 out of 5 stars, which isn't bad. But this book was just like so predictable, and people hyped this book up so much that I was just expecting this to be like super imaginative and super original, and for it to be a 5 stars, but it was just like so predictable. Halfway through with the book, I already know what was going to happen, what was the big twist at the end, and that's why I keep saying, like, with romance and with thrillers, I just haven't found the authors and the, like, subgenres that I like, because I feel like I'm always missing the mark with thrillers. I feel like I always predict the ending. Not saying I'm special or anything, I just haven't found the ones that I really enjoyed. And so yeah, this was just like predictable, and I don't like that with thrillers at all. I really like to be surprised by a big twist at the end, and this had a big twist, but I was just like super expecting it already. So it was disappointing overall and predictable, and yeah, I just need to dive into more thrillers. If you have any thriller recommendations that really gripped you and that had like a really big twist at the ending that you weren't expecting, please comment down below, because I'm still trying to find those types of thrillers, because I love that feeling. Like, I had that with The Girl in the Train. I also had that with We Were Liars, which is, I don't know if it's classified as a thriller, but like that big kind of twist at the end, that's what I'm looking for in thrillers. And if you have any recommendations, please give them to me, because I keep missing the mark with these types of books, and I was just so disappointed with this one. I was really expecting this to be a 5 stars, and it wasn't. So that's why I made the list, because I was just expecting so much more, and I was super disappointed. It wasn't like the worst book I've ever read, but I was just like, oh, that's sad. And like I was saying, if you have also romance recommendations, because this is a romance that I also was like really expecting this to be like super cutesy and for me to like really love the story and the characters, and I was just disappointed as well. And it was Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kahn. I was just, yeah, disappointed with this book. I thought it was super cheesy. I felt like most of the dialogue was super unrealistic. Like, people don't talk like that. There was a scene specifically that I really remember from this book where the main character, Alice, was talking to her therapist, and she was talking to her therapist in a way that I felt like was so cringy and forced and super unrealistic. Like, you would never speak to a professional like that. She was just like making a lot of jokes and kind of like talking to a friend, and I know that you're supposed to have like a really comfortable relationship with the therapist, but like it was just super forced. I don't know if I'm the only one that thinks that. I really didn't like the main character at all, and the romance also was kind of boring and disappointing, and I actually liked the love interest, but like their chemistry just wasn't working for me. And yeah, that was it. This was one of the many romance books this year that I gave 3 out of 5 stars, or like 2.5, or like, I don't know, 3.5. I never make it past a 4 star for a romance, which is really disappointing. Like, for example, I love romance in movies. Like, one of my favorite genres is probably rom-coms, and it just makes no sense that I can't find the type of romance books that I enjoy. I don't know what is wrong with me. So if you have any suggestions of books that aren't too cheesy and are realistic, because that's one of the main things that I struggle with the most with romance books. I feel like they're mostly unrealistic. This was still probably the worst romance book that I read this year, because I just like a lot of things bothered me about it, but there were like a lot of similar experiences to this. So leave the recommendations down below, please. Now, the next book that I want to talk about is, I think, the only book, yeah, it's the only book here that I read for one of my book clubs, which is sad that I read this for a book club and I really didn't like it, but it's Untamed by Glennon Doyle. I just, like, this book bothered me so much. This is a nonfiction book about Glennon Doyle's life, and especially about her coming to terms with her sexuality and meeting her wife and just all of that. And what I wrote in my notes is that this was super repetitive. Like, this book was just repeating itself page after page after page after page. I feel like I was always reading the same things and she was always reading the same things, and also at the same time, kind of like with Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza, this book was really focused on religion and spirituality because Glennon Doyle is a practicing Christian, and so because of that I also didn't relate to her at all, and I just, like, a lot of things that she said I didn't connect with, and that was also a problem, and I feel like I'm not the target audience of this book at all. We talked about in our live show as well, I just feel like this is a book for, like, Christian moms, which I'm definitely not. I'm not Christian and I'm not a mom, so this definitely wasn't the book for me. Like, I wasn't the target audience. I feel like Christian moms and, like, moms in general could relate to this and will probably like this book a lot. Like, this book has a really high rating on Goodreads, so that's probably because of that. So I didn't connect with this book at all. I felt like it was super repetitive and boring. A lot of things just didn't make sense to me. And also I felt like Glennon Doyle was trying to be woke a lot of the times. So I just didn't like this book at all. I think I gave it like 2 or 3 stars on Goodreads, and I still stand with that rating. I'm probably getting rid of this book. It's just not for me. I love the cover though. Like, the cover is probably my favorite part of the book. But yeah, the rest is just okay. There were some things about parenting and about sexuality that I really enjoyed in this book though. I have to mention that. Like, there were some things that I was just like, yeah, when I have kids, I'm probably gonna do the same. But yeah, other than that, it was just an okay book. And very disappointing because this was a book club pick, and people were excited, but yeah, it happens. And now the last book that I want to talk about with you today is one that I buddy read as well with Casey, and we were both like, what is happening? Like, what I wrote down in my notes for this book was, what? And it's This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mottar and Max Gladstone. And this book was just very confusing, and yeah, because of that I just couldn't give it a higher rating. I know that a lot of people also adored this book, and I get it because this is a sci-fi sapphic book, so it just sounds amazing, but like, this is a really short one, and I was just like super confused about everything that was going on. I don't like when I get confused with books. I like being explained what is going on, and we didn't get that at all in this book. I like the format because it's like letters written to one another between the 2 main characters, and you can kind of tell that they're like traveling through time and going through different eras and times and places. But other than that, I was just like, what is going on? The writing is beautiful though. I have to say that. Like, the writing is beautiful, and like the premise seems really good, but if this had like 100 pages more just to explain what's going on, I would be totally down. Also, sci-fi is not really my preferred genre. I feel like I've made peace with the fact that I'm not a sci-fi girl at all. And yeah, it was just like really confusing. I just wanted more context to what was going on and what the characters were doing and how they were, and I just wanted more, basically. This is a really short book, so it didn't have a lot of time to explain. But yeah, I reached the end of the book and I was like, aw, what did I just read? So I didn't like that. And also, it was a really forgettable book, honestly. I was looking at all of the books that I read this year and I was like, oh, I also read that book. That's right. I remember nothing from it. I remember being confused at the end. So yeah, that was that. Not like the worst book I've ever read, but it was just really forgettable and really confusing, and so yeah, sorry. And so we've reached the end of the video. Those were 7 of the worst books that I read this year. If I was really counting the books that I actively super disliked, I would say like The People in the Trees, Normal People, and Becoming Supernatural. Those were like the 3 main ones that I was just like, what? No. No, 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 not for me. Especially The People in the Trees. Like, I could make a whole fucking video about that book because it was just like super uncomfortable, but I don't want to spoil any of her books because I know that a lot of people are not looking for a little life spoilers in this video, and also I don't even feel comfortable discussing the things that happen in that book. It was just like super graphic and not necessary at all. Didn't need that in my life, no. So yeah, those were some of the worst books that I read this year. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Don't give me a dislike because I mentioned one of your favorite books. I'm so sorry, we have different opinions, but that's just the way it is. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you on my next video. Bye!